Hi everyone, you are listening to Raising Rockstars, a brand new podcast navigating the world of modern day artist management and development within the rock, metal and progressive music genres. My name is Lulu Davis and I'm going to be your host. I'm a music industry professional with over 15 years experience in artist management, publicity, marketing, consultancy and small business management. I have such an exciting roster of bands that I'm working with right now, including Voyager from Perth, Western Australia, who garnered a top 10 position at the Eurovision Song Contest in 2023. I'm also managing another Australian band, Caligula's Horse from Brisbane. I'm managing a band called O from China, Earthside from Connecticut in the USA, Unprocessed from Wiesbaden, Germany, and Planet of Zeus from Athens, Greece. One of the main reasons why I'm starting this podcast is because I'm frequently asked about how I got into artist management, what artist management entails, how I've developed the bands that I work with over a very long period of time, and generally what my career is looking like nowadays. And for me, it's so exciting right now to be working with the bands that I'm working with. It's really been like quite a long journey. Some of the bands I've been working with for over 10 years. And I figured that at some point it might be valuable to some people for me to impart some of my experience and some insights and to generally just talk a little bit about what it means to be an artist manager in like the modern rock and metal industry. And particularly since I work within quite a niche, I'm working with predominantly progressive rock and metal bands, which has its challenges, not to mention it's also in an extremely male-dominated industry as well. And I figured that might also be an interesting perspective to some people because I'm frequently contacted by lots of young women who really aspire to have a career in the music industry. And I would really love to encourage that a lot more. I want to see more women in artist management roles. And I'm hoping this podcast can basically present some insight and some valuable information about developing a career in the music industry, developing your own band. Maybe there are just some, tidbits of information now and then when I'm rambling on you might find a little bit useful. So I wanted to start this first episode with just talking a little bit about who I am, where I'm from, and how I got into artist management. I come from Southeast London. I'm a Croydon girl, born and bred. And I moved around quite a lot growing up. So for me, stability is really important. Like stability in my career, stability in my life, stability in the clients that we're working with and the relationships that we have. And I think that's definitely something that really taught me a lot of lessons as well, growing up and constantly having to, adjust and adapt to different situations that life had presented me and my family. And that's where it all began, really. I actually started out really early. I started to get into rock and metal music probably around the age of 11. And that was when I was introduced to MTV and started being exposed to bands like Linkin Park and Limp Bizkit and Slipknot and various bands that were on at that time. My passion for music just developed from there. And during my school years, I had some friends that were in bands and I always had a desire to help them out. And whether that was make a poster for a gig or take some photos at a show or just hang around at the rehearsal space and just see what they were doing. Like it always made me so curious. It was really interesting because when I was in high school, I had a friend called Robbie Palmer. Shout out to Robbie. Hi. His dad worked at Roadrunner Records at the time. That was my first insight as to what it was like working within the music industry because I didn't really know what went on behind the scenes. And I was blown away. I didn't realize this kind of job existed. So to learn that I knew someone who was working with some of the bands that I just loved at the time, I'm talking about Trivium and Kill Switch and Slipknot and various bands like that. For me, that was really exciting and that kind of instigated this sort of passion and ignited this like real curiosity about the music industry. So I kept that in mind. When I went to college, I went to the Brit School of Performing Arts and Technology and I studied BDC, which is Broadcast and Digital Communications. It's basically media studies for short. Within that course, you did various things like film studies, photography, TV, post-production, music videos, all of this kind of stuff. I always found a common thread. I was always like, how can I relate this project back to something music related? How can I work with the music strand, also at the Brit School, to try and bring some value to some of their projects? Who can I do a photo shoot for? Who can I do a music video for? And that's like where that side of things developed. It got to the radio presenting module, funnily enough. I'll never forget it because we had Brit FM, which was the college radio station. It got to the point whereby we were doing these things called Vox Pops, and you would go somewhere and you would take an interview of someone and you would record short snippets of interviews and you would integrate them into your show. And I took the opportunity to look up some music festivals because I thought this is going to be awesome. I'd love to learn more about music festivals and the music industry. So I went on the website for Bloodstock, and I'll never forget it. I was in this dark room, it had absolutely no windows, and I was like looking up music festivals and looking up people that I could get in touch with to interview. I went on the Bloodstock contact page, then I found someone called Adam Segir who worked at the Noise Cartel. And so I reached out to him and I was like, hey, my name is Lulu, I'm from the Brit School. I would love to interview you about your role working with Bloodstock because I want to learn more about music festivals. He said, no problem, come up to London, we'll do an interview. So I went to London and I took my microphone and everything with me, and I met Adam outside the O2 Academy Islington, and I did an interview with him there, and I then learned what it was to be a publicist. And I had no idea what a publicist was. I did not know there was someone that coordinated the media for radio, TV, print, online, for bands. And I was like, this is such a cool job. This sounds amazing. So at that point, I'd had insight of someone who's working at a record label, someone who was working as a publicist with bands. Then after this chat, I went and had an interview, funnily enough, at Spine Farm. And I did my first ever internship at Spine Farm, which is like a subsidiary of Universal Music. And I think I had just turned 17 at the time. I was very young still. I was still studying at the Brit School. And I went and did a bit of an internship there, only to find that Adam at the Noise Cartel was also doing PR for the bands that Spine Farm was working with at the time. So then suddenly I'm like connecting the dots and I'm like, okay, this is really cool. It got to the end of my time at the Brit School and I was looking at what degree I was going to study. Many options came up. First of all, I was thinking like post-production would be awesome. I'd love to do music videos for bands. Then I was like broadcast journalism, doing radio, TV, something in the journalism world that was also really interesting to me. Then I discovered that there was a music and entertainment industry management degree, and a few universities offered this course, and in the end I went to the University of Hertfordshire, and I started studying there. In the first year we were studying for 2.5 days a week, and I'm the kind of person that likes to keep pretty busy. For those people who know me, I'm someone who just needs to fill my days with things. I need to be productive. I need to be proactive. I was like, I have 2.5 days of studying. That means I could do 2.5 days something else. I also have my weekends. On the weekends, I went home and I worked at a pub. I'll get back to more about that in a minute. But yeah, I had a couple of days a week free. And so I got in touch with Adam at the Noise Cartel because he basically said to me like, hey, if you ever want an internship, feel free to get in touch after we made this initial connection. And so I went and interned at the Noise Cartel, I think in my first year of university. And I was there for a full 9 months, I believe. And it was one of the best internships ever. I learned so much there. I started building my network of contacts. I started creating relationships with some of the journalists. And then I just really learned about what it meant to be a publicist and how to start getting publicity for bands and getting reviews in the magazines, coordinating the features, coordinating press at festivals, making some of the schedules. I did many mail outs. One of my main lessons that I learned at the Noise Cartel was that I did not have to lick 200 envelopes. I did that. I licked 200 envelopes. After I did that, Adam told me there was this sponge that I could have used instead, and I could have put my finger in it and I could have done it like that. So after 200 envelopes just licking like for hours on end, I was like, I'm so parched. And he was like, you do realise you can like use this sponge and wet the envelopes with your finger? And I was just like, oh man, okay, thanks for the tip. That memory sticks with me. I have to do a special shout out to Nelly at the Noise Cartel because she was my first ever female music industry mentor, and she is like the queen radio plugger, and I learned so much from her as well. It really was just like such an honor to work with both Adam and Nelly at the time, and it's also been amazing to see how they've grown their company as well. Now, my third internship came as a result of having a really bad job at a call center. And it was the summer holidays. I was really bored. I was only meant to be at this job for a couple of weeks just to get some money in between things. And I worked at pubs, I did some retail work. Like, I would just do any job possible to try and make some money. In the end, I ended up at this call center job because it was paying quite well. So I went there and I had access to a computer, and I sat there and I thought, this sucks. I want to be anywhere in the world right now. Bearing in mind, I think I was 18 at the time. And I just started looking up label websites. One of my dreams was always to go to Los Angeles. Like, at the time, it was like stars in your eyes. Hollywood seems like the place to be. I always had this just dream of going to LA. And I thought, okay, let's have a look at some record labels in LA. Let's see what's going on out there. I wrote to a bunch of labels and I didn't hear anything back. Then I started university in September, and it was like a couple of months in. And suddenly I got an email. And it was from Century Media in Los Angeles. There's a guy called Frenchie who reached out to me. And he was like, hey, thanks for your email. Yeah, we do offer internships, but we do them for college credit or whatever. And if you did come, you basically have to like fund yourself. And I was like, can we organize a Skype? And so I went on Skype with him and Don Robertson, who at the time was running the label. They basically invited me to go and do an internship in Los Angeles at Century Media. I was just so excited. I could not believe it. I was like, oh my goodness. I like rang my mum up screaming. I was like, Mom, I got an internship in Los Angeles. I'm going to work for a record label. I told some of my friends on my course. They couldn't believe it. I was over the moon. I worked every weekend to save the money to go to Los Angeles. And with a little bit of help from my mum, my nan, my great aunt at the time, I'd kind of built like a bit of a buffer, and I booked my flights and booked the accommodation, and I was meant to be out there for 6 weeks. After I finished my internship with the Noise Cartel, I went to the Metal Hammer Awards, which was like the day after download. And then after that, I flew to Los Angeles and I started the internship out there. I mean, it was really surreal, to be honest with you. And I think at this point, I thought, this is it. I'm going to go to LA. I'm going to land a job. I'm going to end up staying out here. I'm going to create this massive rock star lifestyle for myself. The reality was, it was a little bit different, but I got there and nevertheless, I was having a great time, and I started the internship and I got like lots of insight as to how a record label was working, and I asked lots of questions and I met loads of people and I was networking and did a lot of stuff. A couple of weeks into the internship, I think I was actually out there 2.5 weeks, almost 3 weeks. So I was only halfway through the time that I was supposed to be there. And this is something that I haven't really openly spoken too much about. There are many people who do know this, but I figured, what the hell? It's something that happened and I've moved past it now. And now I look back, I'm also really proud of how far I've come since then. But when I was staying in a hostel in, I don't know, West Hollywood, I went out one night and unfortunately I had my drink spiked and I was sexually assaulted in my hostel. And nothing could have prepared me for it. It really was something that was very unexpected. And at the age of 19, I was just obviously devastated. I didn't really know what to do, where to turn, where to go. So after this happened, I just wrote to my boss at Century Media and I was like, I'm really sorry, this has happened, I'm going home. And so I booked a plane back. Before I went home, I got a tattoo. It might seem crazy, but at the time, my brain was in a crazy place and I had some Kill Switch lyrics tattooed on me, which to this day still mean an awful lot to me. The lyrics are, through adversity, there is redemption. With passion, fighting, I am unbroken. So I had those tattooed on me literally a few hours before my flight. And I was just like in the tattoo chair, just like crying because I was in pain, both physically and emotionally. And I flew home. It was this big wake up call for me. I was in a really bad place mentally for quite a while after that. And at the age of 19, there's so much about life that you just don't know. And I think that I was really naive, for starters, thinking that I could go out on this big adventure. Obviously had a dream to begin with, and it didn't end up the way that it should have. But I came home, and my way of processing this was actually, I needed a bit of time, first and foremost, a bit of time to really recollect my thoughts and realign what I was doing, because for me, failure was just not an option. There was no way I was going to let this incident drag me down or deter me from pursuing my career that I'd already worked so hard for, even in just like the 3 short years prior to this happening. That's actually how Incendia Music was born, because at the time I was pretty depressed. I was very anxious. I didn't actually have a desire to go and work for anyone else for a while. I wanted to just do my own thing and be in my own bubble. And so I thought, let's do something that I can control. And that was me starting my own business. And I went back to university and I was really miserable. But I remember the company name was created because I had red hair at the time. I had a very fiery personality, and I didn't want like anything to come in the way of this burning passion that I had to actually build a career. And so I sat there and I remember just making like these like really bad logos and just trying to figure out, okay, I'm going to start my own business. What am I going to do? And then I was like, artist management and publicity. I started creating a bit of a network already. Artist management seems pretty cool. This is what I'm studying anyway. And so I started my own business, and I was studying, and then I was building my network, and then I started managing a friend's band, a band called Subversion. They were actually my first ever clients, and I remember making their press packs in my university halls and printing out all of the press packs and sending them off to people. And that was my first ever album campaign, because they were working with a publicist. They needed a bunch of stuff doing for them. That was just where those skills started to develop. Then it just snowballed from there. I was very much doing 50-50 artist management and publicity. In July 2011 was when Incendia Music was born. And I ran that company for over 10 years. If you'd have told 19-year-old me that 10 years later, you'd still be running the business that was born out of some really unfortunate circumstances, I probably would have said, you're lying. No, I'm going to go and get a job at some point. I'm going to go work for someone. But I think what I realized after a certain amount of time was that like, I'm just not the kind of person that can actually work for anyone. I did another internship at Live Nation in the marketing team for a while. I did some stuff with Download Festival. That was really awesome. I also worked at Mascot Label Group for 3 months, and I helped them out because the label manager needed some cover during that time. I got some experience there working at a label, but ultimately there's nothing like working for myself. I was so motivated for the clients that I was working with. There was nothing else that could drive me more than the success that I wanted for the bands that I was representing. Waking up every day and making my own to-do list and setting my own goals and doing everything on my terms, not having my success dictated by anyone. That really was the driving force for me. And that's exactly why I've just sustained this independent journey throughout my career. It's definitely taught me many lessons. It's taught me resilience. It's taught me persistence. It's taught me tenacity. It's taught me that you're going to come across situations, across clients, across partners who are extremely difficult to work with. There are going to be situations that are really hard to overcome. Over the years, there were definitely times where my mental health really did suffer, and I had a lot of burnout, I had a lot of anxiety. I didn't really know how to navigate certain situations, but I did it anyway. And regardless of whether or not my actions or dealing of the situation was the best that it could have been at the time, I learned so many lessons. And in a way, I think that's really made me who I am today, and also just forms the nature of how I approach artist management and small business management, and how I nurture the clients that I'm working with, and how I really just want ultimately this long-term success, long-term relationships with my clients, and to have a long-term career in the music industry. I'm always someone who is like very committed, and I really work hard to achieve the things that I do. At some point, something changed, like something clicked inside of me, and I was like, wow, if the 19-year-old me could see the 30-year-old me, she would be really proud. She would be so proud of everything that you've done until this point, proud of all of the obstacles you've overcome, and really fucking glad that you got that kill switch tattoo, because having those words etched into your body really has made this work ethic and just really instilled this passion further, I think. So yeah, that's the beginning of how I got to where I am today. And it was a pretty unconventional way, in the sense that simultaneously studied and did a bunch of internships, and then I just went full throttle into just doing my own thing. It probably took me a lot longer to get to this point than it would have if I had worked for someone else, but I also just don't care, because I know that I've done it by myself and it's a lot more rewarding. I've created relationships that really form a part of a career that I love showing up for every single day. I'm so grateful because I work with some of the most incredible partners, both at the labels, the agencies, the publishers, distributors, the publicity companies that we're working with, the bands, the endorsement partners. Like, over the years, I've found my people and the ones that are going to be the best partners for the clients that I'm working with. And I'm also now working in a company full of like-minded people who share the same passion and motivation for the clients that we work with, and we all help each other out. I always just had this passion and motivation to have a successful career, and even though when I was a lot younger I didn't really know what it was that I wanted to do, I always knew that I had to work hard. I wanted to work hard. I needed to prove myself. And I think at various points in my life I wanted to prove myself to other people. Nowadays that's not the case. I don't need to get the approval of other people anymore. And that comes with time and experience. But I'm really happy. I love my career. I love my clients. I'm very satisfied with where I'm at right now in my career. There's still a long way to go, and I'm not under any illusion that I'm at the top of my game, because I'm absolutely not. I really feel like things really are just getting started. I want to talk a lot more about my clients and the individual journeys that I have with them and the different approaches that I take and all of these other things, really. But I figured that this was like a good springboard to just give you a bit of an insight as to who I am and what got my career started. And maybe in the next episode I talk a little bit more about some more specific achievements that I've had over the course of my career, and to maybe answer any questions and have the podcast be guided a little bit by you guys who are listening. Ultimately, I just want this to really be something that is of value to people who are starting a career in the music business and who are looking to develop a long-term career with their music and with their creativity. And this is something that I am just really excited to do. So thank you so much for listening. This is Raising Rockstars. I'm Lulu Davis. Thank you so much again, and I'll see you in the next episode.